Hey guys, tonight we journey back to the age of myths and heroes, to the story of the most famous woman of the ancient world, Helen of Troy. Her face, they say, launched 1,000 ships and burned the topless towers of Ilium. But what if that legendary beauty was not a gift but a cage? What if being the most beautiful woman alive was not a blessing, but a lifelong and inescapable curse, a divine mark that invited only chaos and sorrow? So before we begin, if you enjoy these quiet dives into history's forgotten perspectives, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe. And as always, I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is in your corner of the world. Now let's travel back to the strange, mythic world of ancient Sparta, dim the lights and ease into the story of a girl who was born a legend and would be forced to suffer all the consequences. What if you were born not of a normal union, but from a story whispered by the gods themselves? You are Helen, a princess of the powerful city-state of Sparta. Your mother is Leda, the beautiful queen. Your mortal father is the respected King Tyndareus. But your true father, the story that is whispered in the palace corridors from the moment of your birth, is Zeus, the king of all the gods, who came to your mother in the divine disguise of a magnificent swan. From this strange and mythic union, Leda laid 2 eggs. From one came your mortal twin siblings Clytemnestra and Castor. From the other came you and your immortal twin, Pollux. From the very moment you are born, you are not a child. You are a story, a living piece of myth walking the earth. And you will soon learn that being a story is a very dangerous thing to be. This is a major historical fact, grounded in the logic of myth. You are a demigod. This divine parentage sets you apart from everyone, a creature of 2 worlds. Your sister, Clytemnestra, is a princess. You are something more and something less. You are touched by the gods, and in the world of ancient Greece that is rarely a good thing. It is a mark, a sign that your life will not be your own, that it will be a plaything in the grand, cruel games of the Olympians. You grow up in the palace of Sparta, a world of sun-baked stone, the scent of olive groves, and the constant quiet whispers of the court. And all the whispers are about you. They are about your origins, and they are about your beauty. This is an obscure but vital concept of the ancient world. Your beauty is not just a pleasant feature, it is a power. It is kalos, a kind of unearthly divine radiance that is both a sign of a god's favor and a profound danger. It is a beauty that inspires not just admiration, but obsession, madness, and a deep, consuming desire for possession. As a child, you see it in the eyes of the men who visit your father's court. They do not look at you as they look at other children. They look at you with a kind of stunned, hungry awe. You learn to be quiet, to be reserved. You learn that your face is a mask that you must hide behind. Your beauty, you quickly learn, is not a gift for you to enjoy. It is a prize for others to covet, a treasure that does not belong to its owner. Whether the myths of your divine birth were stories created later to explain your devastating impact on the world, or if they were a core part of your identity from the very beginning, is a question lost in the mists of the heroic age. But in your life, the story is the reality. You are the daughter of Zeus. You are the most beautiful child in the world. And this combination makes you a target. The life of privilege you know is about to be violently shattered. You are still just a girl, perhaps 10 or 12 years old, and a man, a great hero, hears the whispers of your divine beauty. His name is Theseus, the legendary king of Athens, the man who slew the Minotaur. He is a hero, but he is also a collector of beautiful and powerful women. And he decides he must have you. He does not come to your father's court to ask for your hand. He comes to Sparta with his companion, Pirithous, and he kidnaps you. You are playing in a temple courtyard when he seizes you. You are a child, and you are being abducted by a king, a hero, a man old enough to be your father. He takes you back to his kingdom of Attica and hides you away, intending to keep you until you are old enough to be his wife. It is your first brutal lesson in what your face will mean for the rest of your life. It is not a source of power for you. It is a beacon that draws the violence and ambition of powerful men. You are not a person to them. You are an object to be possessed. You will eventually be rescued by your twin brothers, Castor and Pollux, who will raise an army and invade Athens to get you back. But the damage is done. Your brief, lonely childhood is over. You have learned that your home is not safe, that even the title of princess cannot protect you, and that your beauty makes you a prize in a game you are not allowed to play. The first thief has come and gone, but you do not know it yet. His arrival is merely the quiet prelude to a much larger, much more terrible storm that is gathering just over the horizon, a storm that will be summoned in your name. You are returned to the palace of Sparta, a child who has been a captive in a foreign land. Your rescue by your warrior brothers, Castor and Pollux, makes you a subject of song and story. But you are a story told by others. In the quiet of your own mind, you are a girl who has learned a hard and bitter lesson. Your face is a liability. Your beauty is a beacon that calls to predators. You spend the rest of your girlhood in a state of quiet, watchful unease, a princess in a well-guarded but fragile cage. Years pass. You grow from a beautiful child into a young woman of such breathtaking, otherworldly beauty that the stories and whispers that once surrounded you now become a roar. And this is where your life takes its next terrible turn. Your beauty, which was once a local problem that attracted a single heroic kidnapper, has now gone international. You have come of marriageable age, and every ambitious, unmarried king and prince from across the Achaean world, from the mainland of Greece, from the islands of the Aegean, has sailed to Sparta to sue for your hand. Your father's palace, once a place of quiet, regal order, now has the festive and deeply paranoid atmosphere of a royal speed dating event, where every single one of the contestants is a heavily armed warlord with a massive ego. This is a major historical event, grounded in the logic of your myth, the great gathering of the suitors. Dozens of the most famous heroes of the age are here. There is the hulking, powerful Ajax. There is the cunning and eloquent Odysseus from the island of Ithaca. There is the noble Diomedes. They arrive with their entourages and their magnificent competitive gifts, filling your father's court with a testosterone-fueled, testosterone-heavy tension. And what is your role in all of this? You are the prize. You are paraded before the suitors at the great feasts, a beautiful, silent, and impeccably dressed object for their appraisal and their desire. You are not consulted. Your opinion is not requested. Your future is being debated, negotiated and argued over by a room full of the most powerful men in Greece, and you have less say in the matter than the servants who are pouring their wine. Your father, King Tyndareus, is in an impossible position. He is bound by the sacred laws of hospitality, the obscure but powerful concept of xenia, to host these powerful men, to feed them, to treat them with respect, even as their very presence threatens to tear his kingdom apart. The problem is not a lack of options. The problem is a catastrophic excess of them. Your father is paralyzed with fear. He knows, with the cold certainty of a seasoned politician, that if he chooses one man to be your husband, the other 50 angry, proud, and deeply disappointed suitors will likely form a military coalition, burn his kingdom of Sparta to the ground, and then, for good measure, kill the lucky groom. Choosing your husband is not a family decision. It has become a full-blown national security crisis. Whether the great gathering of the suitors was a single historical event or a myth created later by the poets to explain how so many disparate Greek kingdoms were drawn into the great Trojan War is a question that lies at the heart of your legend. but it speaks to the very real political reality of your world, of how a single strategic marriage in the Bronze Age could shape the politics of an entire generation. Days turn into weeks. The suitors grow restless. The feasts become more tense. And your father, trapped and terrified, refuses to make a decision. You are the cause of it all, and yet you are completely powerless. A callback to your childhood abduction. You are once again a passive object in a story being driven by the desires of men. You watch them from across the great hall. You see the greed in their eyes, the ambition, the hunger for the power, and the legitimacy that marriage to you, the divine daughter of Zeus, would bring them. You are not a person to them. You are a key to a throne, to an alliance, to a legend. A clever but deeply cynical solution will be found to solve your father's problem. It will save his kingdom from an immediate civil war. But it will also, in the years to come, be the very mechanism that dooms a great city across the sea and sends thousands of the very men in this room to their deaths. And it will all be done in your name. The political standoff in your father's court stretches on for weeks, then months. The assembled kings and princes of Achaea are growing restless, their competitive hospitality turning into a sullen, simmering resentment. Your father, King Tyndareus, is paralyzed by indecision, terrified that any choice he makes will be the spark that ignites a catastrophic war. And then, into this mess of testosterone and fragile egos, steps the one man who is not a great warrior, but a great thinker, Odysseus of Ithaca. He is not the handsomest or the richest of your suitors. He is just the cleverest, and he has a plan. In your world, a clever plan is almost always more dangerous than a sharp sword. Odysseus, a man whose reputation for cunning is already legendary, approaches your father in private. He offers a solution, a way to choose a husband for you without starting a war. But his help comes at a price. He knows he has no real chance of winning your hand against the wealthier and more powerful kings in the room. He asks for something else. He asks that your father put in a good word for him with your cousin, the intelligent and steadfast Penelope. In exchange for her hand in marriage, he will solve your problem. Your father, desperate, agrees. The plan Odysseus devises is a stroke of pure, cynical, legalistic genius. It will save your father's kingdom from immediate war. But it will also, in the years to come, be the very mechanism that dooms a great city across the sea and sends thousands of the men in this very room to their deaths. He tells your father to make every single one of your suitors swear a sacred, unbreakable oath. This is the great historical fact, grounded in your myth, that will seal your fate, the oath of Tyndareus. An oath in your world is not a simple promise. It is a terrifying, binding religious act. To break such an oath is to invite the wrath of the gods, a curse upon yourself, your family, and your entire lineage for generations. Your father gathers all the suitors in the great hall. He stands before them and makes his proclamation. Before he chooses a husband for you, they must all swear to a single condition. They must all promise on their very lives and honor to defend and protect your chosen husband, whoever he may be, against any man who would ever try to steal you away from him. It is a brilliant trap. It turns every rival into a future ally. No man can refuse to take the oath without admitting that he was planning to cause trouble if he lost. And so, one by one, the great kings and princes of Achaea agree. A great sacrifice is made, the blood of horses spilled upon the earth. They stand with their hands on the sacrificial animal, and they swear. They swear to the most powerful and vengeful gods. They have just, in effect, formed a massive military coalition with a single unwritten purpose: to start a continent-spanning war if anyone ever messes with your future marriage. You have just become the most well-guaranteed piece of property in the entire world. With the oath sworn and the threat of immediate civil war neutralized, your father is finally free to choose, and his choice is a safe, political, and deeply unromantic one. He does not choose the strongest, or the most handsome, or the most clever. He chooses the wealthiest and the most politically convenient. Menelaus, the younger brother of the great king Agamemnon of Mycenae, the most powerful king in all of Greece. Menelaus is a good man, a solid man, but there is no great passion, no spark of the divine. He is a sensible, strategic choice. You are brought forth. Your father announces his decision. You are to be the wife of Menelaus, and upon your father's death he will be the king of Sparta through you. You feel nothing. Relief, perhaps, that the terrible tension is finally over. But there is no joy. Your personal fate, your entire life, has been a matter of public negotiation, a problem to be solved by the men around you. This oath, sworn in a moment of political desperation in Sparta, will one day be the legal justification for the launching of 1,000 ships. The chains of this promise will drag all of Greece to the shores of a distant foreign city, and you, Helen, are the prize that is now locked at the very center of it all. You are now married. The great crisis of the suitors has been resolved. You are the wife of Menelaus, a prince of the powerful house of Atreus. When your mortal father, King Tyndareus, dies, your husband becomes the king of Sparta, and you become its queen. You have done your duty. You have secured a powerful alliance for your city, and you have averted a civil war among the Achaeans. Your life, which has been a chaotic whirlwind of divine omens, abduction, and political crises, now settles into a new and unfamiliar state. Peace. You are now Helen, Queen of Sparta. You have a powerful husband, a magnificent palace, and more wealth than you can possibly imagine. Your life is, by every measure of your time, a perfect dream come true. It is also a quiet, predictable, and deeply, profoundly boring routine that stretches before you in an endless, sun-drenched, and unchanging line. This is the next phase of your life, the long, quiet years of your gilded cage. Your days are governed by the rhythms of the palace. The daily emotional reality of a Bronze Age royal marriage is completely lost to us. Did you and Menelaus develop a quiet affection, a partnership based on mutual respect, or was your life together one of formal, polite emptiness? The myths, always more interested in the later drama, are silent on these long, quiet years. What is clear is that your husband, King Menelaus, is a good man. He is a strong warrior, a stable ruler, and he treats you with the respectful, proprietary pride of a man who owns a very beautiful and incredibly valuable piece of art. He is not, however, known for his sparkling conversation or his deep, poetic soul. Your life becomes one of immense administrative responsibility, a major historical reality for a Mycenaean queen. You are the mistress of a vast and complex household. Your royal duties consist of overseeing the palace's enormous weaving workshops, where slave women produce the fine linen and woolen cloth that is a major source of your kingdom's wealth. You manage the inventories of the palace storerooms, the great pithoi jars filled with olive oil, wine, and grain. You preside over the religious rites dedicated to the household gods. It is vital, important work for the running of the kingdom. It is not, however, the stuff of epic poetry. You perform your most important duty as a queen. You give your husband a child, not a son, but a daughter, a beautiful girl named Hermione. You love her fiercely. She becomes the small, bright sun at the center of your quiet, orderly universe. Her laughter in the palace corridors is the only thing that breaks the monotony of your days. You have everything a woman of your time could possibly want: wealth, the highest possible status, a powerful husband, a healthy child. You have done your duty, but a quiet, nagging feeling of emptiness, of a destiny unfulfilled, begins to grow in your heart. You are a daughter of Zeus, a callback to your divine origins. You are a woman of mythic, world-altering beauty, and you are living the life of a highly decorated and very wealthy domestic manager. A callback to your lonely childhood. You are still isolated. You are not a person, you are a symbol. You are Queen Helen, the most beautiful woman in the world. You are admired by all, but truly known by no one. Your divine beauty still sets you apart, a barrier of awe and reverence that keeps everyone, even your own husband, at a distance. You walk through the halls of your own palace, a revered and lonely object, a queen ruling over a kingdom of inventories and weaving looms. This quiet, comfortable, and deeply unsatisfying peace is not destined to last. Far away on a mountaintop in a distant land, a foolish young prince is about to make a fateful decision in a contest between three goddesses. And the prize he is promised for his judgment is you. Your life as the Queen of Sparta is a long, quiet river of peaceful days. You have everything a woman of your era could dream of, but this is the next and perhaps most terrible reason it sucks to be you. Your life is not your own. Your destiny is a toy in the hands of the immortal gods, and they are about to become very, very bored. Far away from your sun-drenched Spartan court, on the slopes of a distant mountain, a series of petty, divine events is unfolding that will shatter your world and set the entire Aegean on fire. The story begins, as so many tragedies do, at a wedding. The great hero Peleus is marrying the beautiful sea nymph Thetis. All the gods and goddesses of Olympus are invited to the celebration. All, that is, except one. Eris, the goddess of discord, is left off the guest list because no one wants a goddess of strife at their party. Offended, Eris decides to give them a wedding gift worthy of her name. She conjures a single, perfect golden apple. On it, she inscribes the words "Te Calliste," to the fairest. She then rolls the apple into the middle of the feasting gods. It is the beginning of the world's most catastrophic fight over a piece of fruit. Immediately, three of the most powerful goddesses lay claim to it. There is Hera, the queen of the gods, wife of Zeus, a goddess of immense power and regal pride. There is Athena, the warrior goddess of wisdom and strategy, a deity of cool, formidable intellect. And there is Aphrodite, the goddess of love, beauty, and irresistible desire. The argument becomes bitter, threatening to tear apart the harmony of Olympus itself. Zeus, your divine father, is asked to judge. He, being a wise and experienced husband, knows there is no correct answer to the question, which of these three goddesses is the most beautiful, and wisely refuses to get involved. He outsources the decision. He chooses a mortal to be the judge, a man far away from the politics of Olympus, a young, handsome shepherd who is living in the mountains of Troy. The shepherd is, in secret, the Prince of Troy, Paris, who had been exiled as a baby due to a prophecy that he would one day be the ruin of his city. The three goddesses, their divine pride on the line, appear before the terrified young prince. They do not rely on their beauty alone. They each offer him a bribe. This is the great historical fact, grounded in your myth. Your fate will be sealed by a corrupt, celestial bargain. Hera offers him power. She promises to make him the king of all Europe and Asia. Athena offers him glory. She promises to give him supreme wisdom and to make him victorious in all his battles. And Aphrodite, the goddess of love, offers him the one thing she knows a young man's heart truly desires. She promises him the love of the most beautiful mortal woman in the world. She promises him you. The myth of the judgment of Paris is likely a later poetic invention, a way to create a grand, divine cause for the brutal human reality of a Bronze Age war. But in your story, this petty squabble of the gods is the engine of your destiny. Paris, a young man who values love over power or wisdom, makes his choice. He gives the golden apple to Aphrodite. It is a very pragmatic, if breathtakingly short-sighted decision. Aphrodite is triumphant. Hera and Athena are filled with a cold, divine, and eternal rage. They will now be the sworn enemies of Paris and of his entire city of Troy. And you? You are in your palace in Sparta, completely unaware. You are perhaps overseeing the weaving, or playing with your young daughter, Hermione. You have no idea that your life has just been offered up and awarded as a prize in a cosmic beauty pageant. You are not a person in this transaction. You are a divine party favor. Aphrodite does not consult you. She does not ask your husband. She does not care that you are a queen, a wife, and a mother. She has made a promise. This single, foolish choice, made by a boy on a mountainside hundreds of miles away, is the spark that will ignite a 10-year war. Your quiet, boring, and predictable life is about to be permanently and violently interrupted by the consequences of someone else's very bad decision. The Trojan prince is now coming for his prize. Your quiet, predictable life in Sparta continues. Years go by. Your daughter, Hermione, grows from a child into a young girl. You are the perfect queen, the perfect wife, the perfect mother. And then a ship arrives from the east, from the great, wealthy, and almost mythical city of Troy. On board is the Trojan prince Paris, the man who won you as a prize in a divine contest you knew nothing about. He has come to collect. He arrives not as a conqueror, but as a guest. He has come on a diplomatic mission. Your husband, King Menelaus, a man who believes deeply in the sacred and unbreakable rules of hospitality, or Xenia, welcomes him with open arms. He feasts his Trojan guest. He gives him fine gifts. He treats him with all the honor due to a visiting prince. It is a decision he will come to regret for the rest of his life. This is a major historical fact, grounded in your myth. Paris's crime will not just be the theft of a woman, it will be the profound, sacrilegious violation of the sacred guest-host relationship, an act that will offend both men and gods. You meet the Trojan prince, and he is everything your husband is not. He is young, he is breathtakingly handsome, with a kind of soft, almost decadent beauty. He is a man of charm and poetry, a world away from your solid, dependable, and deeply boring Spartan husband. He speaks to you not as a queen, not as a political asset, but as a woman. He looks at you not with the respectful reverence of a subject, but with the consuming fire of a man who has been promised you by the goddess of love herself. This is new, and it is dangerous. The central mystery of your life, the question that poets and historians will debate for the next 3,000 years, is what happens next. Were you an active participant, a bored and lonely queen who saw in this handsome young prince a chance to escape your gilded cage for a life of passionate love? Or were you a helpless pawn, a victim of a divine plot, your will overwhelmed by the irresistible power of Aphrodite, who is now simply fulfilling her part of a bargain? Were you a willing adulteress, or were you an abducted victim? The myths offer no clear answer, allowing you to be both a villain and a victim, a sinner and a saint. The story unfolds like a dream or a nightmare. Your husband, Menelaus, in an act of almost comical bad timing, is suddenly called away to Crete for the funeral of his grandfather. You are left alone in the palace as the host to entertain your charming Trojan guest. The goddess Aphrodite, it is said, now works her magic. She fills your heart with an irresistible longing for Paris. She makes you forget your duty, your kingdom, your own daughter. You are overwhelmed by a divine madness, a passion that is not your own. You make a choice, or a choice is made for you. In these few fateful, quiet days while your husband is away, you agree to leave Sparta with Paris. You gather a vast amount of your husband's treasure, gold, silver, fine textiles, and in the dead of night you slip out of the palace. You board his ship and you sail east for Troy. This single fateful act is the spark that will fulfill the ancient prophecy about Paris, the one that said he would be the ruin of his city. As the shores of Greece fade into the distance behind you, what do you feel? Is it the thrilling, heart-pounding joy of a woman who has finally chosen her own destiny, who has abandoned a life of quiet duty for one of passionate, romantic love? Or is it the cold, sick dread of a queen who has been abducted, a woman who has just been forced to abandon her beloved child, a victim of a prince's lust and a goddess's whim? Perhaps it is both. Perhaps you do not even know yourself. What is certain is this: the moment your ship leaves Spartan waters, the great terrible oath of your father, a callback to the promise sworn by all your former suitors, is triggered. Every king in Achaea is now legally and religiously bound by a sacred, unbreakable vow to raise his armies, launch his fleet, and bring you back to your husband. The trap, so cleverly set all those years ago to prevent a small war, is about to spring, launching the greatest and most destructive war the world has ever known. You arrive in the great, rich and powerful city of Troy. It is a world away from the austere, militaristic society of Sparta. Its high walls are legendary, its temples are magnificent, and its people are wealthy from their control of the trade routes between the East and the West. You are brought in triumph to the royal palace and presented to the royal family as the new bride of their handsome and somewhat reckless second son, Paris. They look at you with a mixture of awe at your divine beauty and the distinct dawning horror of people who have just realized their favorite child has brought home a priceless, stolen artifact from a rival empire, and now that entire empire is coming to get it back. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. You have not escaped into a loving paradise. You have simply traded one gilded cage for another, more precarious one, and you are now the cause of a looming international crisis. You are brought before the old and wise King Priam. He treats you with kindness and respect, charmed by your beauty and your grace. But you see the worry in his eyes. You meet the heroes of Troy. There is the great Hector, Paris's older brother, the commander of the Trojan army and the city's greatest warrior. He is noble, he is brave, and he looks at you not with desire, but with a kind of weary, profound dread. He sees in your face not a beautiful woman, but the promise of a long and terrible war that will destroy his city and his family. Then you meet his sister, Cassandra. She has been blessed by the god Apollo with the gift of perfect, unerring prophecy, and then, after she rejected him, cursed by that same god so that no one will ever believe her truths. She takes one look at you, her eyes wide with terror, and she begins to scream. She screams that you are a plague, a fire, the doom of Troy. She prophesies that for your sake the city will burn, the men will be slaughtered, and the women will be dragged into slavery. Everyone politely ignores her, dismissing it as another one of her mad fits. It makes for a very awkward first impression. A great debate is held in the Trojan Council. This is a major historical event within your myth. The wiser elders, led by men like Hector, argue for the only sane course of action. You must be sent back to your husband, Menelaus, along with the treasure that Paris stole, and with a handsome apology. They argue that one woman, no matter how beautiful, is not worth the price of a catastrophic war with the combined armies of all the Achaean kings. But Paris, your new husband, a callback to the foolish choice he made on the mountain, refuses to give you up. And his father, King Priam, a doting old man with a fatal weakness for his handsome son, indulges him. It is a decision based on a father's love and a prince's pride, not on sound foreign policy, and it will cost them everything. You are now in the grip of what the Greeks called ate, a kind of fatal blindness, a ruinous passion sent by the gods to lead mortals to their doom. The Trojans, by choosing to keep you, have chosen their fate. The archaeological evidence for the historical Troy shows a powerful, wealthy city that was indeed destroyed by a massive war around the end of the Bronze Age. Whether a figure like you was the real cause or simply a poetic symbol for a more mundane conflict over trade routes is the question that separates myth from history. But in your story, you are the beautiful, glittering reason for it all. So you begin your new life in Troy. You are a queen without a kingdom, a bride in a city that is about to become a battlefield because of you. You are surrounded by luxury, but you are also surrounded by resentment and fear. You are a living, breathing omen of a coming apocalypse. And as you walk the high walls of Troy and look out over the calm blue waters of the Aegean Sea, you do not feel like a treasured princess who has found her true love. You feel like a prisoner, waiting for the first of the 1,000 ships, a callback to the terrible oath you thought was forgotten, to appear on the horizon. You have made your choice, or a choice has been made for you. And now, the consequences arrive by sea. Your former husband Menelaus and his very powerful older brother Agamemnon, king of Mycenae, have successfully invoked the oath of Tyndareus, a callback to the brilliant and terrible legal trap set at your betrothal. 1,000 black ships, a fleet carrying the greatest warriors from every corner of the Achaean world, arrives on the shores of Troy. It is the largest army ever assembled in Greek history, and they are all here because of you. It is a deeply flattering and completely terrifying situation. The 10-year siege of Troy has begun. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. You are now the living, breathing justification for a decade of bloodshed. You are the casus belli, the cause of the war, and the weight of that responsibility is a burden heavier than any crown. You watch the war unfold from the high walls of your new city, a beautiful prisoner in a besieged fortress. Your life is no longer about comfort or boredom. It is about the daily, grinding reality of a long and brutal war. The archaeological layers at the site of Troy show evidence of multiple destructions, but the scale of the conflict described by the poet Homer is almost certainly a poetic exaggeration, a compression of many smaller conflicts into one grand, epic narrative. But for you, the story is the only reality that matters. Early in the war, in a desperate attempt to avoid a decade of slaughter, the two sides agree to a truce. The entire conflict will be decided by a single combat, a duel between your two husbands, the old one, Menelaus, and the new one, Paris. The winner takes you and the stolen treasure, and the war ends. You are brought to the Scaean gate to watch from the walls, to be the living prize displayed before both armies. You watch as Menelaus, a hardened Spartan king and a veteran warrior, and Paris, a handsome prince who is more of a lover than a fighter, arm themselves for the duel. The fight begins. It is not a close contest. Menelaus, enraged and powerful, soundly thrashes Paris. He shatters Paris's spear, he breaks his own sword on Paris's helmet, and he begins to drag the younger, weaker prince by his helmet's chin strap back towards the Achaean lines, intending to kill him and claim his victory. The war is about to be over. You are about to be taken home, and then the gods who started this whole mess decide to intervene. Aphrodite, a callback to her promise to Paris, cannot allow her chosen champion to be defeated and humiliated. She swoops down onto the battlefield, invisible to all but you, perhaps. She snaps the chin strap of Paris's helmet, and then she spirits him away from the duel in a thick, magical mist, depositing him safely and shamefully back in his chambers in the palace. It seems even the gods do not believe in fair play. The duel is over. Menelaus is the clear victor, but his prize has vanished. The truce is broken. The war is back on, now more bitter than ever, and any hope you had for a quick, relatively bloodless resolution is gone. You are now truly trapped. This is the sucky reality of your new life. You are the most famous woman in the world, and you are also the most hated. Every time a Trojan warrior is killed on the plains below, his grieving mother or his new widow looks at you in the palace corridors with eyes full of silent, burning accusation. Every time the city's food supplies dwindle, you are the unspoken reason why. Your divine beauty has not made you beloved. It has made you a walking, breathing curse upon the city that has given you sanctuary. You are hated by the Greeks for leaving, and you are hated by the Trojans for bringing the Greeks to their doorstep. You are a woman with two countries, which means you are a woman with no country at all. You are a prisoner of your own story, a story in which you are the beautiful, passive prize, while the men around you fight and die for the right to possess you. The war will drag on for 10 long, bloody years, and your life inside the besieged city will become its own kind of quiet, desperate, and agonizing siege against loneliness and guilt. The war for you, which was supposed to be a short, decisive affair, drags on for 10 long, soul-crushing years. The Achaean army is unable to breach the great walls of Troy, and the Trojans are unable to drive the Achaeans from their beaches. The conflict settles into a miserable, grinding stalemate, a war of attrition that drains the life from both sides, and you are trapped in the middle of it. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your life inside the besieged city is its own kind of quiet, agonizing, and inescapable siege. Your days are a monotonous cycle of fear and boredom. You live in the royal palace, a prisoner of your own legend. You are the most beautiful woman in the city, and also the most hated. A callback to your isolated youth. You are a lonely figure. You are not truly one of the Trojans. You are the Greek woman, the cause of all their suffering. When you walk through the palace corridors, the Trojan women, the wives and mothers of the soldiers who are dying on the plains outside, fall silent. They look at you with cold, accusing eyes. You are the reason their sons and husbands are dead. You are hateful Helen, a walking curse that has brought ruin upon their city. The portrayal of your character in Homer's great epic, the Iliad, is a masterpiece of psychological complexity. Are you a self-aware, tragic figure, consumed by regret for the destruction you have caused? Or are you a flighty, self-pitying woman, still under the divine spell of Aphrodite, lamenting your fate but accepting no real responsibility for it? The poet gives us glimpses of both, leaving your true nature a beautiful and frustrating enigma. What is clear is that you are deeply unhappy. You have only two true friends, two protectors in this hostile city. The first, surprisingly, is the old King Priam. He treats you with a gentle, fatherly kindness, never blaming you for the war. He sees you not as a cause, but as a victim of the whims of the gods and the foolishness of his own son. Your other, more important protector is your brother-in-law, the great and noble Hector. He is the only one who consistently defends you, who shows you respect, who silences the whispers and the insults of the court. He treats you with decency, not because he desires you, but because he is a fundamentally honorable man. This, in the city of Troy, makes him a great rarity. You spend most of your days in your chambers, at your loom. This is an obscure but powerful detail from the Iliad. You are weaving, but you are not weaving simple decorative patterns. You are weaving a great, intricate purple tapestry depicting the scenes of the war itself. You weave the images of the bloody battles being fought in your name, the stories of the sufferings of both the Achaeans and the Trojans. It is a grim, painstaking hobby. It is your only creative and emotional outlet. You are essentially creating a detailed, threaded documentary of the epic disaster for which you are the unwilling inspiration. It is a quiet, lonely act of bearing witness to the horror. You are a queen, but you have no power. You are a wife, but you are trapped in a marriage to a man, Paris, whom you now see as a weak and cowardly lover, a stark contrast to the noble Hector. You are the prize of the war, but you are also its greatest prisoner. You watch from the high walls as men slaughter each other in the dust below. Every death is a fresh wave of guilt. You have brought this upon them. This is your life for a decade. A long, slow, suffocating existence inside a dying city. Hector is your only real shield against the hatred of the Trojans. His survival is the key to your own. And as the final terrible year of the war begins, the greatest of all the Greek warriors, the demigod Achilles, who's been sulking in his tent for months, is about to rejoin the battle, filled with a terrible divine rage. And his first target will be your only friend. The war grinds on into its 10th and final year. A decade of your life has been consumed by the siege, a long, slow dream of dust and death. And then the nature of the war changes. A call back to the brutal realities of this world, the conflict, which had been a series of skirmishes and stalemates, is about to become a story of personal savage vengeance. The greatest warrior of the Achaeans, the nearly invincible demigod Achilles, who has been sulking in his tent for most of the year due to a bruised ego and a dispute with King Agamemnon, rejoins the battle. He is not fighting for you, or for Greece, or for honor anymore. He is fighting out of a pure, grief-fueled rage over the death of his beloved companion Patroclus, who was killed by your great protector, Hector. This is very bad news for Troy, and for you. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your one true friend and guardian in this hostile city is about to be brutally and systematically destroyed, and you will be forced to watch. Hector, the noble prince of Troy, the city's greatest warrior, knows he cannot defeat Achilles. The gods themselves have made it clear that his fate is sealed. His parents, King Priam and Queen Hecuba, beg him not to go. His wife, Andromache, pleads with him, holding their infant son. But he is a man of honor. He knows that the fate of the entire city rests on his shoulders. He goes out to face the raging Achilles in single combat. He is the only truly heroic and tragic figure in this entire miserable story. You watch the duel from the high walls of Troy, standing among the Trojan women, a silent Greek ghost in their midst. The fight is a terrifying spectacle. Hector is a brilliant warrior, but Achilles is something else entirely, a force of nature, a living instrument of divine wrath. The duel is short and brutal. Achilles, protected by his god-forged armor, kills your friend. He drives his spear through Hector's throat. The great protector of Troy, the city's last hope, is dead. But his death is not enough for Achilles' rage. And what he does next is an obscure but horrifying detail, an act of such profound, savage cruelty that it violates every sacred law of gods and men. He does not return Hector's body for a proper burial. Instead, he ties Hector's ankles with leather thongs, attaches them to the back of his chariot, and then whips his horses. You and the entire population of Troy, including Hector's own grieving parents and wife, are forced to watch as Achilles drags the mutilated body of your only friend in the dust, circling the walls of the city in a triumphant, repeated lap of desecration. It is a new low, even for a war that has already lasted for 9 years. The sight is one of pure, unmitigated horror. The wails of grief from the Trojan women on the walls around you are a sound you will never forget. And in that moment, your own precarious position inside the palace becomes infinitely more dangerous. Hector was the one man who shielded you from the city's hatred. He was the one who insisted you be treated with the respect due to a queen. Now he is gone, and the hatred of the Trojan people, which had been a quiet, simmering resentment, now has no one to hold it in check. You are now completely and utterly alone, a foreign queen trapped in a doomed city full of people who see you as the sole cause of their ruin, a city whose greatest hero has just been butchered because of you. With Hector gone, the fall of Troy is no longer a question of if, but when, and the final, clever and terrible trick that will end this long and miserable war is now being devised in the mind of your old, cunning suitor from Ithaca, Odysseus. You are no longer just a prisoner of the siege. You are now a prisoner waiting for the inevitable, fiery end, with no one left to protect you when it comes. With Hector gone, the spirit of Troy is broken. The war, a callback to its brutal beginnings, descends into a series of desperate, heroic, but ultimately futile skirmishes. The great Achilles, having desecrated your friend's body, is himself killed, shot in his one vulnerable heel by your husband Paris. But even this victory feels hollow. The city is exhausted. The 10-year siege has drained its will to fight. And then one morning you wake to a strange and unbelievable sight. The vast Achaean camp on the beach is empty. The thousands of huts and tents are gone. The entire Greek fleet has vanished from the horizon. After 10 long years, it seems they have finally given up and sailed for home. A wave of delirious, disbelieving joy sweeps through the city of Troy. The people pour out of the gates, cheering, weeping, tasting their first moment of peace in a decade. It is a moment of profound, intoxicating relief. It is also, of course, a trap. They have left behind a single parting gift on the beach. An enormous, magnificent and slightly creepy wooden horse. This is where your story tips over from the tragedy of war into the stuff of legend. The Trojan horse is almost certainly a myth, perhaps a poetic metaphor for how the city's walls were finally breached, be it by an earthquake, a new type of siege engine, or simple treachery. But in your story, it is the literal wooden engine of Troy's destruction. The Trojans gather around the great horse, arguing about what to do with it. Your sister-in-law, the prophetess Cassandra, a callback to her earlier ignored warnings, begins to scream. She is a vessel of pure divine terror, prophesying that the horse is full of armed men, and that to bring it into the city will mean utter ruin. As usual, no one listens to her. Another priest, Laocoon, also warns against it, famously saying, "I fear the Greeks, even when they bear gifts." He throws a spear into the horse's side. At that moment, 2 monstrous sea serpents rise from the ocean and devour Laocoon and his 2 sons, a terrifying omen that the Trojans immediately misinterpret as the god's punishment for his sacrilege. The debate is settled by the arrival of a Greek captive, a man named Sinon. He is an obscure but vital part of the trick. He spins a masterful, convincing lie. He claims he is a deserter, that the Greeks hated him and planned to sacrifice him, and that the horse is a sacred offering to the goddess Athena to ensure their safe voyage home. He tells the Trojans that if they destroy the horse, they will incur Athena's wrath, but if they bring it into their city, they will earn her divine protection, and Troy will become impregnable. The Trojans, desperate to believe that their suffering is finally over, choose to believe the lie. They knock a hole in their own magnificent, unbreakable walls to drag the great horse inside. The city erupts into a massive, drunken festival. They have won. They have survived. The war is over. You, however, do not celebrate. You watch this scene of joyous self-destruction with a cold, creeping dread in your heart. You are a Greek. You know the cunning of men like Odysseus, your old suitor, who you are certain is the architect of this terrible, brilliant trick. You know that this is not a trophy of victory, it is a vessel of death. As night falls, the city, exhausted from its celebration, sinks into a deep, drunken sleep. And then, in the silence of the night, a small trapdoor in the belly of the horse opens. A rope is lowered. The first of the hidden Greek soldiers, led by Odysseus himself, slips to the ground. They are the city's undoing. They creep through the sleeping streets, kill the sentries, and open the great gates of Troy to the main Achaean army, which had not sailed for home, but had merely hidden behind a nearby island, waiting. The end is swift and merciless. The Achaean army pours into the sleeping city. The 10-year war is about to end, not with a final, honorable battle, but with a single night of unimaginable one-sided horror. You lie in your bed in the palace, listening as the sounds of celebration outside your window are slowly replaced by the sounds of screams, the clash of steel, and the roar of a great, all-consuming fire. The city of Troy is dying. The night is a tapestry of screams. The city of Troy, your home for a decade, is being systematically and efficiently dismantled by an army of enraged, sleep-deprived Achaeans. From your chambers in the royal palace, you hear the sounds of the slaughter. The fires from the burning temples and homes cast a terrifying, flickering red light against the walls of your room. The grand 10-year war did not end in an honorable battle, but in a one-sided, brutal massacre. The final phase of your long and complicated domestic dispute has now entered the Kimar Tudo Ateo Shom phase. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. You are now trapped in the middle of the very apocalypse that you are blamed for causing. This is the great historical fact, echoed in the archaeological layers of the real Troy, which show a city destroyed by a massive, violent fire. The sack of a Bronze Age city is not a strategic capture. It is an act of total annihilation. The men are to be killed, the treasures are to be looted, and the women are to be taken as slaves, the spoils of war to be divided among the victorious chieftains. You hear the news in fragmented, terrified reports from fleeing servants. The old King Priam, a callback to the man who treated you with such kindness, has been cut down at his own family altar by the savage son of Achilles, an act of profound sacrilege that will surely anger the gods. Your second husband, Paris, the man whose foolish judgment started all of this, has been killed in the fighting. Every man who ever protected you or claimed you in the city of Troy is now gone. You are, once again, a piece of property, and your ownership is about to be violently and very publicly transferred back to the original claimant. In the midst of this city-wide chaos, you have a very specific and very personal problem. Your first husband, Menelaus, the king of Sparta, whom you have not seen in 10 years, is now somewhere in this burning city, and he is looking for you. You know he is not coming with flowers and forgiveness. He is coming with a sword in his hand and a decade of rage in his heart. He is coming to kill you for your betrayal, to reclaim his honor by spilling your blood. You huddle in your chambers, listening to the fighting get closer and closer to the palace. You think of the other women of Troy, of Hecuba, the queen, who has just seen her husband murdered and her city destroyed, of Andromache, Hector's noble wife, whose infant son will be torn from her arms and thrown from the city walls. This is their fate, to become the slaves and concubines of the men who have just slaughtered their families. And you, what is your fate? Are you a prize to be reclaimed or a traitor to be executed? Finally, the door to your chamber bursts open. It is him, Menelaus. He stands there, his bronze armor blackened with soot, his face a mask of grief and fury, his sword drawn and still dripping with the blood of Trojan men. He looks at you. This is the moment. The culmination of 10 years of war, of thousands of deaths, of the ruin of 2 great civilizations. He raises his sword, ready to strike you down, and then, according to the legend, he hesitates. He looks at your face, at the divine, unearthly beauty that has caused all of this, and his rage falters. He is a man who has lost a decade of his life, who has sacrificed his armies and his wealth, all for this moment of vengeance. And in this moment, he cannot do it. The story says that the sight of your beauty was enough to make the sword fall from his hand. Whether this is a poetic truth, or if he simply made a cold, pragmatic calculation that you were more valuable to him alive as a symbol of his victory than dead as a martyr, is a question the poets do not answer. You will survive this night, unlike almost everyone else you know in this city. You will not be killed. You will not be made a slave. But survival is not the same as freedom. A new and deeply humiliating chapter of your life, a long journey home with the husband you betrayed, is about to begin. The sack of Troy is over. The city is a smoking, corpse-choked ruin. Your husband Menelaus has found you, and in a moment of what could be either renewed love or cold calculation, he has spared your life. But this is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your survival is not a happy ending. It is the beginning of a new, long, and deeply awkward chapter of your life. You are now the reclaimed property of the man you betrayed, and you must begin the long journey home. You are led through the ruins of your home of 10 years. You see the other women of Troy, your former companions, being herded onto the black ships of the Achaeans. Hecuba, the queen, now a childless, widowed slave. Your sister-in-law Andromache, Hector's noble wife, now the property of Achilles' brutal son. A callback to your shared grief on the walls. Their fate is to be the spoils of war. Your fate is different, but perhaps no less humiliating. You are not a slave. You are a queen, being taken back to a life you abandoned by a man who has just destroyed a civilization to get you. The reunion is not one of tearful joy. It is a long, silent, and deeply uncomfortable journey on a ship full of men who have spent the last 10 years of their lives cursing your name. This is a major historical fact, grounded in your myth. The Nostos, the homecoming of the Greek heroes, was often as dangerous and as tragic as the war itself. The gods, angered by the many sacrilegious acts committed by the Achaeans during the sack of Troy, cursed their journeys home. Odysseus will wander for 10 years. Agamemnon will arrive home only to be murdered by your own sister Clytemnestra. And your own journey with Menelaus will be no simple trip across the Aegean. The gods of the sea are not finished with you yet. Your journey home takes, according to the legends, nearly 8 years. The gods send storms that blow your small fleet far off course. The details of your long journey are sparse and mythic. Whether these stories of wandering represent a historical memory of the chaotic migratory collapse of the late Bronze Age world, or are simply poetic devices to lengthen the narrative and explore the themes of exile and return, is a fundamental question of the epic tradition. You do not sail directly home to Sparta. You become a wanderer, a royal refugee drifting across the southern sea. You visit Cyprus, you visit Phoenicia, and you spend several long, comfortable years in the rich and ancient court of the Pharaoh of Egypt. Here, you are treated not as a problematic piece of recovered property, but with the honor and respect due to a great queen, a daughter of Zeus. It is a pleasant and comfortable exile within an exile. It is also a strange reminder that you are a figure of such mythic importance that you seem to fit in better with the ancient, timeless gods of the Nile than with your own fractious, violent people. It is in Egypt that you are said to have learned of strange and powerful medicines, potions that could soothe grief and make men forget their sorrows. These long years of wandering are a time of quiet, slow reconciliation between you and your husband. The raw, violent anger of the battlefield fades, replaced by a kind of weary resignation. You are bound together by a shared trauma, by the ghosts of the thousands who died in your name. You are no longer the young, foolish lovers or the betrayed spouses. You are two survivors, trying to find your way back to a home that neither of you is sure still exists in the way you remember it. But you do not know that even as you are making your slow, meandering peace with your husband and your past, another, stranger version of your story is already being told by the poets back in Greece. It is a version that will attempt to absolve you of all guilt, but in a way that erases you completely. It is a story that claims you were never even in Troy at all. You spend years on your long, meandering journey home, a slow process of healing the deep wounds of the war. You and your husband Menelaus, slowly, awkwardly, begin to rebuild your life together, bound by the shared trauma of Troy. But while you are physically adrift on the sea, your story, your very identity, is adrift back in Greece. This is the next, and perhaps the most bizarre and sucky reason to have been born as you. Even your own life story is not yours to control. While you are living one reality, the poets, in their infinite wisdom, are busy creating another, stranger version of your life, one that will attempt to wash the blood from your name by erasing you completely. This is a major, if obscure, fact of your myth, the story of the Eidolon, the phantom Helen. The tale, told by later poets like Stesichorus and the great playwright Euripides, is a masterpiece of historical revisionism. It goes like this. You never actually went to Troy. The gods, in their wisdom and cruelty, decided that the great Trojan War had to happen, but they deemed you, the mortal daughter of Zeus, too precious, or perhaps too volatile, to be the actual cause. So, on the day that the Trojan prince Paris came to Sparta, the gods created a phantom, a ghost, an eidolon made of clouds and breath, a perfect living replica of you. It was this phantom, this beautiful, soulless cloud woman, that Paris abducted and took back to Troy. It was for this phantom that the Achaeans launched their 1,000 ships. It was this phantom that lived in the palace of Troy for 10 years, the cause of all the death and suffering. The entire epic, world-altering Trojan War was fought over a beautiful illusion, a convincing forgery. And what about the real you? In this version of the story, on the day Paris arrived, the god Hermes, acting on Zeus's orders, spirited you away. You were taken not to Troy, but to Egypt, a callback to the peaceful land you visited on your real journey home. And there you remained for the entire duration of the war, hidden, chaste and blameless, living a quiet, secluded life under the protection of the Egyptian king, waiting patiently for your husband to finish fighting a decade-long, catastrophic war for your stunt double. The origin of this strange myth is fascinating. Was it a genuine alternative folk tradition? Or was it a deliberate literary and philosophical invention by later poets and thinkers trying to fix the profound moral problem at the heart of your story? How could one woman, no matter how beautiful, be the cause of so much death? The Eidolon myth provides a neat, if deeply insulting, solution. The war was not your fault, because you were not even there. The blame lies with the gods and with the foolishness of men who are willing to wage a decade-long war, not for a real person, but for a beautiful image, a prize, a phantom. This new story is very popular because it absolves everyone of their guilt. But in absolving you of your guilt, it also robs you of your entire experience. Your life in Troy, the complex relationships you forged, the grief you felt for Hector, the terror of the city's fall. In this version, none of it happened to you. You are reduced from a complex, tragic, and deeply human figure into a passive, perfect, and completely empty symbol of purity, waiting off stage while the real drama unfolds elsewhere. So which story is the truth? The one where you are a flawed, human woman at the center of a tragic war you helped to cause? Or the one where you are an absent, perfect symbol, while the real drama happens to a ghost? The ultimate sucky tragedy is that in the end, it doesn't matter. In both stories, you are not a person who acts, but a cause that is acted upon. You are not a human being, you are a beautiful reason for the actions of gods and men. Your very identity is a story that others can rewrite as they see fit. So which story is the truth? Are you the tragic, flawed woman who went to Troy, or the perfect, blameless phantom who waited in Egypt? In the end, it does not matter. Because now, after nearly 20 years away, a decade of brutal war, and almost another of a long, wandering journey home, you finally arrive back in Sparta. You are home. You resume your place on the throne beside your husband, Menelaus. But you are not the same woman who left. You are a ghost in your own palace, haunted by the memory of a burning city and a war fought in your name. This is a major and final fact, grounded in your mythic story from Homer's great epic, the Odyssey. Years after the war, you are visited by Telemachus, the young son of your old clever suitor Odysseus, who is still on his own, even longer journey home. You and Menelaus host him in your magnificent hall. But the feast is a sad affair. The moment someone mentions the Great War, the memories become too painful, and all the old heroes begin to weep. It is here that you reveal the final, strange evolution of your character. You are no longer just a beautiful queen. You are a kind of gentle sorceress. You produce an obscure but powerful substance you acquired during your long stay in Egypt, nepenthe, a drug that, when mixed with wine, makes one forget all sorrow. You pour it into the wine bowls, and for a little while the ghosts are quiet. Your primary social function is now that of a divine anesthesiologist, drugging your friends so they can bear to remember the past you all share. You live out the rest of your days as the Queen of Sparta, a figure of immense legendary status, but one who is also profoundly sad. You have seen the greatest city on earth burn. You have seen the greatest heroes of your age die. And you know, whether it was your fault or not, that it was all because of your face. It is a quiet, comfortable, and deeply melancholic end to a life of chaos. But your story does not end with your death. In some parts of Greece, particularly in your homeland of Sparta, the memory of you transforms. You are no longer remembered as a queen, but as a goddess. This is an obscure but beautiful final chapter. Cults spring up that worship you. A woman whose life was a catalogue of human suffering and powerlessness, as a divine, immortal being, a goddess of beauty and perhaps of trees. It is the ultimate and most ironic promotion. The final sucky reality of your life is this: you were never allowed to be a person. You were born a myth, the daughter of a god. You became a political prize, an object to be won and defended. You were made the cause of a great war, a beautiful excuse for the ambitions of men. You were either a treacherous villain or a blameless phantom, your own truth lost somewhere in between. And finally, you were transformed into a goddess. But the real you, the lonely girl, the bored queen, the terrified captive, the grieving survivor, that woman is lost forever, completely and totally consumed by the legend of your own face. And so, your story ends, not with a clear answer, but with a quiet, lingering question. Who were you? The world will never know. You are a ghost, a story whispered in the ruins of a fallen city. You are a face, an image, a beautiful, tragic, and ultimately empty symbol. The men of your age fought a war over a woman they did not know, and for the next 3,000 years, the world will continue to tell the story of a queen whose true self was the only casualty of the Trojan War that was never counted and never mourned. Your legend is a magnificent echoing chamber, and at its very center is a profound and eternal silence where a human heart used to be.